What's your favorite thing to do? I know, getting a measure.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. I don't even know where I am anymore.
I think we're on good evening by now.
Good evening. Nope, 5:59.
Oh,
Nah,
Sorry,
missed by a minute, I
5:59:03.
think.
Hey, Telesco Secretarial, how are you?
Hello, I'm a new face. My name is
Oh.
Vion.
We never get to see your face, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Sometimes we think there might just be a tape recorder there,
It's AI. That's what it is. It's all AI.
Yeah, you think I'm here, don't you? I'm still down in St. John. This is my clone.
I'm pretty new, so I'll be maybe taking over this console.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Nice.
you'll see more of me.
Fantastic.
Good. Well, and it's nice to put a face with the task too. It's just
Exactly. You
there's
are.
Jeff and John. I guess Jeff had a little internet trouble still.
Unmute here. Yes.
All this technology is great till it doesn't work, and then
Yeah, it's supposed to make your life easier until it makes it harder.
Or then you call the provider and you wait for a call back for a couple hours and then, well, anyway, I'm laughing about it.
No, you are 100% correct. Hopefully everyone had a good Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir. Let's see, where's that map? Oh, here's a map right here. I got it.
You can share that.
Is Amelia there? Maybe if I could share.
So when we get there, John. maybe-
Yep, I'm here, and yeah, you should be able to share your screen now, John.
call a meeting to order first, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to get things ready here, Alan.
Says you're here now. Right. So they can see that now.
Right.
So it is 6:01. Do we want to call the meeting to order now?
I just want to see who else.
Do we have a
scroll.
quorum?
3, 4, 5, I believe.
Yes.
Matt 6, Laurie.
Yes. Lori's here.
Robert Stowers is here. All right. 6:01. We'll call the meeting to order. And we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Jeff, would you lead the pledge?
Sure will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
Flag
United States of
United
America
States of America,
and
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. As you were.
Yeah. Get out of this here.
Okay. Well, I will read the roll call for, we have a new Telesco person taking notes tonight, so we'll do the full roll call. Matt Gifford. You say
hey,
present.
Alan, how are you?
Lori Jones,
Present.
Alan Kivy, present. Jeff Mangles,
Present.
Chris McDonald. Oh, I don't see Chris on.
No, he's not there.
Okay, Mike Matthews. I don't see Mike either. Dr. Piddo,
Present.
Chris White.
Present.
So we do have a quorum. Then I think we can proceed. Because this is sort of an applications review kind of meeting, I've asked John to sort of take over and lead us through this.
All right. No, thank you very
So
much.
John, you have the floor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Everyone see the map that we have up? Is that up present there on the screen?
I do.
Did anyone,
Yes, yep.
everyone attended the application, that meeting that was held last week for the final discussion of the plan and proposal?
I wasn't able to.
All right. Now, I was just wondering if anyone had any comments as to what they wanted to make while we start. I can certainly turn it over to Jeff to, he has a few comments that he'd like to make.
Is the meeting link now posted on the city website for people to view? When I looked at it over.
No, it's not. No, I tried to listen to the meeting today. The link is not there.
It was not posted.
Yeah, I thought that was.
No,
All right.
because some of us couldn't make that meeting.
Because there were certainly a number of comments that were made that would have been helpful to review.
But we've also spent a lot of time. Might I talk, John?
Oh,
or-
yeah, all right, I'm sorry.
Just as from my comments and my review for what it may be worth, but we spent a lot of time reading the different pieces of the rezoning proposal. And this follows the amendment of the POCD, which we reviewed quite extensively and commented on. And the next step was the revision of the zoning regulations as they affect the waterfront. That's what follows from the amendment of the POCD, because the POCD amendment endorses the waterfront industrial zones study, which then has formed the basis for the zoning amendments for the waterfront. So the commission was provided a copy of the proposed zoning revisions, and so was the DEEP. And both the commission and the DEEP are required to review, and referral to the DEEP and the commission is required. And then DEEP and the commission provide comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the Harbor Commission's comments are with respect to the Harbor Management Plan, and DEEP's comments are with respect to the Connecticut Coastal Management Act. Now, we've also been interacting with DEEP to understand the status of their review. We do not have comments yet from DEEP. They have not provided their comments yet to Planning and Zoning. And the last time we discussed it with DEEP, we were told we probably shouldn't expect the comments until either right before the public hearing on December 5th and 6th. So we would be making comments.
Well, that's your.
Oh, yeah, we would be making comments tonight based on what's been referred to us, but without the benefit of DEEP's comments. And the Harbor Management Plan specifically calls for giving support to the Coastal Management Act policies for guiding land use and in the coastal area. Now, since we looked at this last, there have been several changes. And if I'm going over what you already know, just cut me short, but there have been several changes to the proposal that we last looked at. And I don't mean that the meeting that's not where the link isn't posted now, but prior to that, when we looked at the zoning, you can remember there was a category called the CD5 and CD5W. And that was the CD5W was to be a waterfront zone. And that zoning district, as we understood, would allow for the highest residential density of I believe in the city. And so that CD5 zone was proposed for a significant portion of the existing marine commercial zoning district along Water Street. Now, we objected, the commission objected to that in the course of comments on the POCD. And one of the concerns well, there were two concerns. One, you were reducing the areal extent of the marine commercial district, which is supported by the Harbor Management Plan. And you're also putting the highest density residential development district on the waterfront in the special flood hazard area, which is the FEMA's 100-year floodplain, in the same area that the Yukon Resiliency Circa Group is doing a resiliency plan for. And so That's just incongruous. But now there's the changes since then, which you heard at the presentation last week, is that the CD5 and 5W zone is now no longer, it was eliminated. But the same standards that were to be included in the CD5 and 5W zone are part of the CD4 and 4W zone now. So it's just a different nomenclature, if that the name of the zone, but the standards that were in this, including the residential development standards, are the same as they were in the CD5, now in the CD4 and 4W. But a significant, I think, improvement is that the proposed zoning no longer would reduce the marine commercial district along Water Street. They've kept that intact, the aerial extent intact, with the same standards for development as currently exist. And they've also, as we understand, eliminated the provision that would have provided for increased residential density within a half mile of the Norwalk, of the South Norwalk train station, as that half mile would superimpose over the marine commercial district. So I think one major improvement from the first time that we looked at this is that marine commercial district is intact, and they haven't increased the density of residential density approved there. However, in the what do you call it, the motion, or the I forget what the term is, the adoption of the POCD amendments, it's also specified that they will not make any changes to the marine commercial zone until such time as they work out the flood related issues. So that would lead you to believe that they still intend to
Changed.
to change that zone at some time in the future. But right now, I think that's consistent with the plan to keep that marine commercial zone. So our thought was that tonight, and again, subject to whatever you decide to do, is that the commission would not want to be in a position of saying the whole proposal is consistent with the harbor management plan, but rather make comments on elements of the proposal, some being consistent and some not being consistent. So we were thinking that the part of this zoning proposal that maintains intact the marine commercial zone along Water Street and does not increase the residential density of it, that's consistent with the harbor management plan. However, they're also now proposing in the upper harbor, on both the west side and the east side.
In the light blue area here.
Yeah, up there, and that's on the west side north of King Industries, and then on the east side down for a bit.
Yeah.
They're proposing to put the CD4W zone on that area, and that allows, again, the highest residential density, and that also is in the 100-year floodplain, and so that envisions then redevelopment of that area, not with marine commercial uses as we thought might take place in the future, but with redevelopment, with, again, residential development in the 100-year floodplain. So our suggestion, I want to say, talking with John, and I believe DEEP, but I can't speak for them now. I believe that that's something that the commission would not speak favorably of, because it's putting residential density where it doesn't exist now, in the 100-year floodplain. And the other interesting part of this, and a little bit off the topic, but if you remember when the Walk Bridge project was first presented, and there were questions about what the need is for that vertical lift bridge, especially since the marine commercial uses in the upper harbor have over time declined from I think 6 or 7 water dependent uses to 2 now. And so the argument that was made at the time by proponents of the bridge was that if there's a more reliable lift bridge, then we would expect to see increased interest in redeveloping the upper harbor for marine commercial uses. But that's clearly not the intent of the zoning regulations now. So that's another aspect of it. And then you also see on the zoning map, the property between the bridges on the east side of of the harbor, between down, John,
Go ahead, down
between,
here.
between the railroad bridge and the Straffolino
Where are we?
Bridge.
Oh, right in here.
The property that was previously Sono Wharf and formerly the
That's-
Neptune Boat Club.
Yeah, this is right in here, right?
That's proposed for the CD 4W district, which allows the highest residential density.
Right here.
And the 50 Water Street property just downstream on the west side is also
It's right here,
the CD 4W district.
right here.
So my thoughts, and again, pardon me for
Yeah,
going on, but I don't know how many hours we spent looking at this to try to understand it. But that the current proposal that would keep intact the Water Street Marine Commercial District and also the Marine Commercial District over at the Cove Marina area, that can be judged as consistent with the harbor management plan. But that proposals such as the proposal on the Upper Harbor waterfront
in here in the light blue.
that would add the highest residential density on the waterfront and in the 100-year floodplain, the commission would not be able to make a favorable recommendation on that. Those were two comments related to the specific zoning. There are other sections, there are three. Well, if you want me to stop at, there were three other things I wanted to say. And those concern
Insurance.
the citywide standards, and those are in Article 6. And there are three sections that are of interest. One is a section concerning flood hazard regulations. Another is the coastal area management regulations. And the third has to do with sustainability. Now, the flood hazard regulations are interesting, and this gets into the question of resiliency. But the last we understood that Norwalk does not participate in a FEMA program called the Community Rating System. And that's a voluntary program that is an incentive.
No, it does not.
It does not.
That does not.
I'm sorry, it's a voluntary program that communities participate in who do more than just the minimum FEMA requirements for flood management and flood building construction. They do more than that, and as a result, it effectively get I want to use the word extra credit.
Well,
But-
reduced
but-
rates.
But they get discounted flood insurance rates. So my thought was that we would support if the city in its flood hazard area section of the zoning regulations does more than the minimum FEMA requirements, but does enough to get into this community rating system, which would result in reduced flood insurance premiums for everybody in the city, because they're doing more than just the minimum. The second part is the coastal area management overlay section. And one of the things that we pointed out in the POCD or asked for is that the coastal boundary line should be shown on the POCD maps and certainly on the proposed zoning map. And the proposed zoning map does not show that coastal boundary now. And there's also, and this goes back 30 years, there's no mention of the municipal coastal program of the city of Norwalk, which was a voluntary program, not just to comply with the requirements of the Coastal Management Act, but again, to do more, to actively advance the policies. So right now, all that work from 30 years ago, there's no reference to it at all in the POCD or the zoning regulations. And I might think we would want to make a regulation to make clear that Norwalk is committed to the municipal coastal program implementation is provided by the Coastal Management Act. But those are and then there's a third item in this Article 6 called sustainability. And this is the last thing I'll mention, but there's no reference in there to flood resilience. And I know we recently received a letter from, I believe on behalf of the Cove Marina owners, objecting to that section on sustainability, which includes addressing stormwater and green space and so forth. And then the only other thing I might mention with the coastal management section, there's also no reference in that section to the requirement for referral of coastal site plan reviews to the Harbor Management Commission for review and comment. There is a section there talking about the administration of coastal site plan reviews and procedures for review, but there's no reference to the requirement to refer those reviews to the Harbor Commission.
No,
So that's my long-winded.
no, but yeah, but Julie, in all fairness, a statement was made But again, there's no reference to that in the document itself. Mr. Kleppen did make a statement that said that would occur. They would
Well,
make reference to.
My
but
thought is,
That has to be in there.
why not put it in the regulations?
Put it
so-
in the
So
regulation.
an applicant reviewing the regulations and what's required would know that that is a requirement as
right.
part of the review of a coastal site plan.
Right.
That's my,
Well, that goes also back to when we wanted the harbor, that document that we had prepared to be back to back with the P O C D, that the
Yeah.
harbor management plan would be in with that document.
it's supposed to
One
be part of it.
part of it, yeah.
But
This
that,
is, sorry to interrupt, but this is still a work in progress as I understand it as well, that, based on the comments that are received, there'll be further versions of this.
but we also heard that the public hearing on this there are 2 dates, on December 5th and 6th. And initially, we heard that the comment period was going to close after that last hearing. Now we understand that there may be a short period of time for additional comments to be submitted in writing
After the 6th, that's
after the
correct.
6th, but I don't know how much time. So our thought was that hence the special meeting tonight to provide comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the public hearing. For the 5th and the 6th.
You know, we can get all that perhaps written up, or if anyone would like to add, make other further comments. We put all our thoughts together, we'll get those down on paper and then get it out to all the commission members for review.
Yeah, but review is one thing, John, but
I know.
as far as submitting it as a statement made by the commission. You know, the commission has to act on
Act
it
on
or
it.
agree. You
Yeah.
can't do it
Yeah,
by
yeah,
mail.
no, right, that's right, yeah.
But those were, and I don't know how long it took to review. It was interesting because the original referral, as we understood it, when it went to the Harbor Commission and went to deep, was subsequent, when we looked at the links that were provided, it wasn't the most recent iteration, because the zoning map, the current map that John is showing, that's dated October 31. And I think that when we went to the link that was provided with the referral, it was the previous map that still had the C,
Right,
what is it, the CD5.
right. Those higher numbers.
Yeah, but it's quite an impressive effort to do this rezoning, and and the other interesting part of it is the rezoning of Manresa. If there's going to be rezoning of Manresa Island, they have that as
CD1S.
CD1S,
yeah.
and we know that there's now a development plan being prepared for that. Whether that's to be,
But we have not seen
we
anything.
have not seen anything of that. But
Well, that's so CD1S is basically was zone B before. So it's not really being rezoned, correct?
Not quite sure about that, and we're not quite sure about the extent of the redevelopment that's being proposed.
Well, but basically, Manresa is not being addressed by this rezoning. They've changed the name of the zone, but I don't think anything is being rezoned.
To reflect, if you remember, there was a very good report that was done. And I don't know if the people from Wilson Point or Harbor View contributed to that, but it was a reuse report.
I've read that, yes.
Yeah, no,
They had lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas, and none of it's addressed in this. Manresa wasn't addressed in the waterfront industrial study or in any of the waterfront studies. So they've really, Manresa's been kicked, the Manresa can has been kicked down the road.
Not forgotten though, Chris.
But except we know,
Absolutely not forgotten, but I think it's not addressed in this effort at all. It hasn't been addressed in any of the efforts.
I don't think we can make comment about that at all. Or can make comment about that.
we will soon see an interesting redevelopment plan for Manresa Island, but you're right, if
Yeah.
they're not changing the zoning, there's nothing for us to comment on there.
Right. I mean, I think Manresa is a whole different thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of discussion to be made about whether there should be marine commercial down there and all kinds of other ideas and everything else going on, but it's not really part of this. So basically, so to sum up what you said, Jeff, thumbs up on Water Street, thumbs down on Commercial Street.
On the Upper Harbor.
Upper Harbor.
That's Commercial Street, right? And that's basically three
Commerce.
Commerce Street.
Commerce Street,
Commerce.
Commercial Street,
Commerce.
Commerce Street.
And the other side, the opposite
And the
side,
Smith Street side, yeah, whatever that, basically it's O&G, Divine Brothers, United Marine, and I don't know what the,
Well, this is actually head of harbor up here where,
no, head of harbor is up
It's
right at
right
the
in
top.
here.
that's already redeveloped. I mean, there's already condos north of O&G's parcel.
still in that zone.
Fine, but what do we talk? I mean, there's already condos all along the east side except for the O&G lot, right?
We're talking about north of the existing development on
Yeah.
the east side, and then on the west side,
See.
north of,
Also in here too.
Yeah,
Right
but,
in there.
but the same, but all along that Upper Harbor, if it's not CD4, it's CD4W, it's,
CD4W. So we're talking about the Vine Brothers site, United Marine,
Yes.
and in the northern stretch of King Industries, right? Unless does Eversource's lot go down to the river? I'm not sure.
yes. It's the waterfront on the west side, north of King Industries.
Right. So this area right here.
And it's the turquoise color.
Properties we're actually talking.
Right, that's right. And there's little pockets up in here too. Yeah, so,
But remember, the purple color also is the high density,
yes,
What'd you say, Alan?
no, Jeff is saying the purple color here is also high density. This is CD4 here, but
Well, the reason that I was suggesting that the commission could not make a favorable recommendation is that's within the 100-year floodplain, and they're introducing residential
And-
development that's not permitted by the existing.
Well, those are two different issues, though.
Yeah, that's one, and then the other is the.
No. Those are within a piece of property. You could build or you could not build depending on whether there's dry egress, right? I mean, that was another. So they wrote up a whole thing in there and then took it out again on the waterfront, on the marine commercial / waterfront. And part of it had to do with there having to be dry egress from any development.
Well, that's one approach to dealing with increasing the development in the floodplain, but that's not, a basic approach that's supported by everyone involved in floodplain.
resiliency planning, yeah.
In resiliency planning, that the goal is not to use the dry egress and the resiliency planning to increase
Increase
residential density.
Density, right?
It's to reduce the vulnerability of existing development, not to provide for new development. And we talked about this, and it's an interesting discussion. And I'll stop in a minute, but we were told that there's economic benefits to be gained by the development of those properties. But if you look at the studies that have been done over the years of floodplain development and the models that have been run, yes, it's understood that there are economic benefits to be gained, but in the long run, in the long term, the public costs out of responding to floods and other aspects of flooding
Rebuilding.
outweigh the initial. But that's an academic
Yes,
discussion.
it is.
I think the question is, does the Harbor Commission support increasing residential development and density in the coastal floodplain, whether there's dry egress or not? And that to me, that's a basic floodplain management policy. And deep in the past has taken the position that it is inconsistent with the Coastal Management Act. But anyway, that's.
But we don't know what
Good.
I don't know what their plans are now at all.
So the question is, what sort of comments to make now for the public hearing?
December 5th.
And then if they're certainly like to see have the benefit of looking at Deep's comments as well, especially since the harbor management plan supports the coastal management policies being used to guide Coastal Management Act policies being
And,
used to
and
guide.
we don't have
plans.
any idea when that'll be seen by Marcy.
Well, they're working on it now,
Yeah, I know.
but we're told that we probably shouldn't expect anything before the public hearing dates.
How do you think this document should be presented? I sent the Gardella Brothers comments around to all of us so we could all see what those guys are up to. I think there's something to be said for strength in numbers if we're saying some of the same points. I
got
just
the
wondered if
impression
she should
all of
just
us
kind of go through and note the concerns we have based on, SDMC keeping the Marine Commercial District intact. Good. We have a question about the turquoise between the bridges. We don't, again, I think that's a mistake. Because that's really ought to be a water dependent use rather than a
Well, that supposedly was originally intent of that, where the Neptune Boat Club was, that was supposed to revert back for, actually building or actually putting in there perhaps another marina or at another location. Back to the original owner, to the city, if I recall.
Well, the city has the first right.
City has the first right of way to that.
Yeah, I guess that's, but
I don't know where that stands.
my recommendations as an advisor, or whatever you want to call it, is to say that retaining the Marine Commercial District on Water Street and not
That's
increasing the density, the allowable residential density, is consistent with the harbor management plan.
Right.
Applying the new CD4W.
What,
I'm sorry, Chris, what?
well, what's our objection for the lot between the bridges?
This here?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. What they wanted to, what was planned here.
Well,
Several years back, they had planned to put.
There's no plan. You can't plan for what the market will do with the property. We're talking about zoning now, so it's CD4W is
Right
what's
here.
proposed. It's not a floodplain, right?
Part of the
It
part of
is.
the, I don't know how much of that area is within the
Floodplain
floodplain, but
area.
the
Goldstein Place is quite high. We all know that. And it
that's
slopes up pretty, so you could develop that property without, so the floodplain isn't the issue there. So what is the issue?
Well, it is in the front here, in this front zone here.
Yeah, but you review that based on the proposal by an actual developer to do something. You don't make blanket statements for large swaths of the city, or even small swaths.
Yeah.
I mean, so if we have an argument, we have to be consistent with our argument. And I'm not sure what our argument is for that piece, other than we want it to be a marina.
historically, that was a truly water dependent use.
Sure, and I know that Deep has put that on the DOT that's what they want, but they can't. There's no forcing that. It's CD4W, so all marine uses will be allowed there.
Well, you bring up a good point though, because as part of the permit issued on the walk bridge, I think that there were conditions concerning the future use of properties that DOT acquires now and what they could be used for in the future. I should
Yeah,
have.
but it's not binding. What I remember Mike Kraswinski saying was that that's what they want, that's what they would like, but it's not a binding thing. And and the zoning allows for all that. So there's nothing in the zoning plan that it goes counter to that.
But there could be a deed restriction on it. I want
I
to go
don't
back
know.
and look at what the DEP condition is for that. In the interim, then maybe the blanket statement, which you said we probably shouldn't do, but there would be a blanket statement saying that the commission cannot make a favorable recommendation on proposals that would increase the currently allowable residential density in the special flood hazard area. And that would apply to the upper harbor especially. And then the second part of that is that concern that would result in further loss of water dependent uses that benefit from the proximity to the federal channel.
So does this logic preclude development on Manresa?
No,
No,
well, you know,
Talking about it's at least as floodable as everywhere else we're talking about.
of course it does. It would. Because almost all of Manresa is within the 100-year floodplain.
Yes.
The areas that's not is the hazardous waste area that has a.
oh, that's right, and this right here.
Not there, no, down
Uh,
farther where the power plant was, John, down below.
Here's the power plant is over
It's
here.
down,
Right, so,
yeah, but that's a basic principle that I'm suggesting be maintained, that if you're interested in resiliency planning and sustainability, it's contrary to that to encourage additional residential density in the 100-year floodplain. Now that the proposal that was done by the group doing that reuse study for Manresa Island, if you recall, they did a very good study, and they were looking at economic conditions that would impact redevelopment, not just along Manresa, but any place along the coast. And they felt that there weren't market conditions that would lead to new marine commercial development, and that the principal redevelopment goals were for residential development. And I think that they suggested or recommended, I think, a density of 74 housing units down at Manresa Island, and the rest a substantial preservation of open space and green space. But yes, so that policy about redevelopment in the floodplain, in my opinion, that's a basic policy for coastal resilience. And that's, of course, he didn't say this at the meeting, but when we talked with the Circa group, they certainly agree that the purpose of resiliency planning is to reduce vulnerability of existing development and hopefully reduce flood risk, but not to increase
Population, that's residential density.
But that's, anyway, I'm
Yeah, we're
talking
going
about
up there.
anybody else.
No, we're going up there,
Apologize.
so basically this policy, and I'm not sure how do we, other than just objecting to the map, how do we plan on, what's your suggestion for implementing that in terms of the rezoning? Does that go into this Article 6? Do you want to modify Article 6?
I think that we're now you're getting into the real details of
Well, that's just to be blunt here. That's where we're at.
I don't
know if we're at that.
I don't know that we're
Well,
at.
we're 2 weeks from the end of public comment on this. If we don't, we can make broad-based general things that are not going to be, that can be easily brushed aside, or we can make specific comments.
I'd make.
I don't like making broad-based things that are easy to ignore. I want to make specific comments to have things included. That's my approach to this. That's been my approach all along, is to make specific comments about specific things in the plan.
Well, what is to
Not
be,
just a general objection or,
What about if the first statement is that the way they've approached the Marine Commercial District on Water Street and Cove Marina is consistent with the plan? The imposition of the CD 4W district on the Upper Harbor waterfront, because that district allows residential development in the 100-year floodplain, the commission cannot make a favorable recommendation about that. So therefore, if they were to impose that district on the Upper Harbor, they'd need a 2/3 vote to do that. And then the other comment I would make is that, again, that the zoning map should show the coastal boundary. And in those 3 sections on what did I say? Section 6, the citywide standards, that we'd encourage them to do more than the FEMA minimum in the flood hazard section, so that the city can participate in the community rating system. And in the coastal management overlay area, we'd want them to make a specific reference of support for the municipal coastal program, and also to include reference to the requirement of referring coastal site plan reviews to the Harbor Management Commission. And then if there's we'd also like to be able to have we might even want extension of time for comments after the public hearing to allow us to hear the comments at the public hearing and also have the benefit of Deep's
Deep statements.
comments.
Recommendations.
Recommendations and findings.
Excuse me, Jeff, Laurie's had her hand up for a long time.
Sorry, we didn't see that. Lori,
That's okay. I think maybe Jeff just answered my question. I was curious to know exactly what the allowable uses are for CD4W. That seems to be our primary areas of concern, and wondering if we could recommend, you know, we're okay with these listed uses, we're not okay with those listed uses, but perhaps that's what Jeff was just reeling off.
We'd have to go back now into the, I know one of the suggested uses in the Upper Harbor in that CD 4W is the multifamily residential development. And that's not, as we understand it, that's not allowed in the existing zoning regulations for the industrial marine. I don't know what type of industrial district that is. But when we looked at it's the section 4, I believe, John, isn't that
yeah.
there's a very detailed section that talks about the uses that are permitted.
Right, and I just looked, I couldn't put my hands quickly on that, Jeff. That's what I was trying to understand is clearly we don't want to increase residential density there, but maybe there are other uses like proposed marine uses that we're okay with. So maybe we can enumerate what we're comfortable with and what we're not, to Chris's point, instead of making blanket statement concerns about CD4W as a whole.
Then let's talk about planning. That's known as we're planning. You know, we're planning out.
That's up to the commission to decide how
Yeah.
they wish to do it, because they're and you know, if you notice the letter that was submitted by the Gardella group for the with comments on the marine commercial district, that had very detailed comments on the different uses, which I think is more detailed than we could even ever get into, because we're interested in the marine commercial
You see, that dealt specifically with their businesses. in
Yes,
that area.
but there was discussion about parking requirements and
Right, right.
entertainment and other elements of.
I don't know how
of
much
the
we have to get
proposed.
into that. That's it.
Well, I think that's a very good thing to get into.
Yeah, but then, okay.
Well, because I think it goes at, it does go to a level that I hadn't, I mean, I hadn't considered, that, I'd look through the checklist thing, but it never occurred to me that like outdoor dining is not allowed in marine commercial and under the new thing. And I can think of at least 3 places off the top of my head that would become non-compliant because of that, including, Sono Seafood, Sunset Grill, and the Gardella and the new snack
Yeah.
bar thing at
Yeah.
Cove Marina. And there may be others. I can't, and well, not to mention, I don't know what South Norwalk Boat Club and is show to do. I wouldn't be surprised they had some outdoor seating. All that would be non-compliant based on the new zoning. So I would hope that's just an oversight. But then there's also stuff about the building types that basically you're stealing and citing marine industrial type structure would not be allowed in marine commercial. It really goes to residential commercial development and not sort of marine commercial isn't just commercial, it's also marine industrial to a level. And it doesn't allow for industrial type structures higher than 20 feet. So you couldn't, what that they want to be able to do for working on boats. So I think those are very specific things that we should endorse their requests for.
No, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, Chris, but I don't know how, from a commission standpoint, how we can be involved in development. That's the only thing that
I don't.
We're not involved in development. We're involved in commenting on the plan. And if the proposed zoning makes some of these uses marine commercial uses non-compliant, then I think we should object to that. And part of that is,
Isn't that I don't know that maybe you are, but if we're prepared to talk about the details, the specific use
Yeah.
I
requirements.
think that's exactly our job. And if I don't like this broad,
Anyone,
30,000-foot comment thing. I don't think it does any good.
I'm not qualified to say what type of building material goes on site of a building in a marine commercial zone. I'm not an engineer. I'm not qualified to do that myself. Or I guess there's certainly certain things that you would like to see. I agree with you on the standpoint that they were talking about having food, in an area that like certain restaurants right around the waterfront would be fine. Why they're negated about that, and I certainly would support that. Like for example, Sono Seafood and Sunset Grill and places like that. So I certainly agree with that. But I've never taken it that far from the standpoint of and then certainly the impervious surfaces, which we certainly agree with as far as decreasing impervious surfaces.
So that's part of the
Yeah.
sustainability section.
Right.
Which we
Well,
want.
so their argument for that was that we should increase density. If you increase density, it decreases. If you increase the number of stories allowed, it would decrease the density. And I don't know.
The density based on a number of units per square, well, they relate it to square footage.
Square footage.
Well, that's already in there. That's already set. That's at a 2,000, 1 unit per 2,000 square feet of lot
The marine commercial district, that's right.
in the marine commercial district. But their argument is that they should allow more stories. Because if you have more stories, you can put that density in a smaller footprint. That's their entire argument. They want to increase it from 2.5 to 3.5 stories.
And I would say that's a level of zoning that's outside the purview of the Harbor Commission. That's a zoning regulation. And when Deep comments on this, they're going to be commenting with respect to the policies of the Coastal Management Act. And
I don't think that the heights allowed within the marine commercial district is outside of our purview.
Well, based on what data? I mean, what data? What number? What do you use, Chris? I have no idea as far as what is acceptable as far as height limitations or recommendations should be made based on storms, floods, whatever, in an area, how high a building could be. I have no idea on how to manage that or discuss that. What should go in that particular area. I mean, you might. I don't. Alan, I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh, it's just there are, we know there are certain parameters to having, working with marine stuff. Like if you have a boat showroom, you need a ceiling higher than 16 feet to adequately do that. So I think there's some of those things that the Gardellas have asked for are perfectly reasonable to have more allowances that are suitable for working with boats. That's
professionally done.
how I see it, in a very, very simple kind of way.
Yes. That went along certainly with the types of businesses that they own, and that's how they were able to come up with that sort of recommendation. They already knew what they needed. I don't know from a standpoint of just being on the Harbor Commission, what is the recommended height from a building if I'm storing boats or if I'm doing a construction work inside the building. I have no idea what the recommended height should be or would be needed. So, but again, I agree with that. I certainly agree with that. But how do we handle that from a standpoint of a commission? That I don't know.
I don't see how we would do that tonight unless we were to ask.
Yeah, Lori has her hand up.
Mention of the
Hi,
comment
Lori.
period.
Hi, guys. So John, I totally agree with you. I don't feel like we're the experts to know exactly the height of ceilings needed to work on a powerboat or a sailboat. But I think maybe what we can say in our proposal is that we, yay for keeping the marine commercial, but that we defer and support the experts who do know about that stuff for proper and productive use of that space. And so, for example, we support what Gardella is asking for. They're the experts, it's their business.
Yeah,
So
but
that I don't think we should be naming the exact ceiling heights and, you know, that kind of stuff and stories and stuff. But I think if we can say that we support the experts who do know about that.
But I would just say that they're presenting their recommendations from the perspective of a property owner who has, you know, an interest in future development and operation of their property. So they're not completely objective, you know, in terms of looking for the public interest.
I
Right.
understand, but
But-
they certainly know more than we do about the use of marine commercial
I-
space and marine industrial space.
we say that we support the flexibility in building height and other construction material along with to fit the needs of that particular establishment. I don't know how to put that in there.
The goal is to support viable, truly water dependent uses.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what we support.
But to say, well, the building height should be 60 feet versus 20 feet versus 30 feet, I have no clue.
Or the setbacks.
Setback should be this.
Or parking too.
Yeah, I see that I know that I wouldn't know how to address that.
But maybe the way this really should work is that we should have the benefit of listening to people make comments at the public hearing on the 5th and the 6th. Maybe submit our basic comments at this point. Ask for an extension of the comment period to allow us to convene again after the public hearing and spend some more time looking at the proposed uses. My understanding was that the proposed uses in the marine commercial district, looking at some of the P&Z stuff, or the proposed, what do you call it, standards for development, were not being changed in the marine commercial district from what's there now.
Right.
We wouldn't want any changes that would somehow reduce the opportunity or encourage, you know, non-water dependent development that you know, has just the minimum amount of public access or water dependent uses. But I don't know, that was my thought. And if we can request an extension of the comment period to look in more detail at what is being proposed for uses in the CD 4W, and if there are any additional changes to the marine commercial district. And then we could consider those if we wanted to make some comments after the hearing.
You know, I mean, I could see, Alan, you know, certainly I see how that Gardella letter had evolved. You know, here they had already had a commercial business established. And then they went ahead and they tried to fit that paradigm. Well, I need this and I need that. I can't deal with a building structure that's 3.5 stories. I need something that's 4.5 stories. Or I need I can't deal with a 16-foot ceiling. I need a 30-foot ceiling. I wouldn't know that how we can handle that and go through this district, you know, piece by piece, section by section, and say, well, that fits this, but that doesn't fit here. I wouldn't know how to approach that.
But we could give a more deep, going back all the hours we spent, you know, we can go back and look again at the CD 4W and the marine commercial. Those are the two main districts, and see what the proposed uses are, and if there's any uses there that we think would detract from
But
future.
this is not in the use table. This is in like the size and bulk and material section where they specify what cladding should be used and your minimum first floor height thing. So it's not about, it's not in the matrix with all the dots. They've except for the youth program and outdoor dining, which didn't get included in marine commercial. So
Right. That's what the Gardella letter had just had approached.
well, and I think we can say, oh, it is, yes, that makes perfect sense that if you want to have a marine commercial boat repair facility, that it doesn't have to be a brick clad building. That it needs to be more, that it needs to be taller than a retail space, which is what the zoning is written for. I can quite confidently say that, yes, that makes perfect sense. The boat storage at MarineMax wouldn't be allowed to be built You know, we have to look at stuff like that. Would the boat store, like their rack system at Marine Max, would that be allowed under this zoning? Are we, you know, the whole point is to not make things that are currently best business practices for marine commercial in South Norwalk. We don't want to make that non-conforming. That was the whole objection to their matrix when they had it, when it came out ass backwards to begin with.
Yeah. Well,
And I'm quite, I mean, if you're not comfortable, that's fine, John, but I think some of us are.
well, no, I'm not saying that. No, I understand that, Chris. I said I am not comfortable about doing that because I'm not an engineer to say what type of building material should be used, you know, and what color socks I'm to wear the day I make that do construction. I don't know how to do that. I'm not. That's not my.
I mean,
I agree with you that some of those comments that were made in that Gardella letter made sense to me. You know, that certainly I understand. As far as going along, you know, section by section along the waterfront and say what businesses are there now and what should be there. You need 5 electrical outlets versus 100. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to approach that. What is necessary from the standpoint of making this a water dependent use, other than saying, okay, it has to be water dependent. I know what water dependent means, but to go about designing a particular building or say that the footprint here doesn't fit what it should be, that I'm not qualified to do myself anyway. I mean, but if somebody else is, I would certainly understand and appreciate that. Like you are an engineer, I am not. You know, if you know, for example, how a building should be constructed at a waterfront area, but that's fine. I would confer to your expertise on that.
But how are we gonna do that tonight?
Yeah, I don't know. That's how we can do that right
We
now.
got
you know?
the Gardella letter yesterday.
Yeah, I know. That's true.
and-
Yeah.
and the-
when is our next scheduled meeting?
Well, well, it's not necessarily our next scheduled meeting. We can make it anytime we want.
We
Chris.
have a special,
Well, so that's a question though. When's the next scheduled meeting?
Well, if it's a regular commission meeting, it would be the 27th of December, but that's not going to help us out
No,
because
that's not our next scheduled. We don't have a meeting scheduled between the holidays. Is it on this?
I thought that was unless it's earlier than
It's
that.
never scheduled then. We always move November and December.
All right. Well, I'm not sure.
20th?
Well, it would be
Our
that.
November meeting was before Thanksgiving, Chris.
But
Yeah.
so when is the December meeting scheduled for?
Well, we have I'm not sure if it's the third Wednesday or the fourth Wednesday. I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, it's never between the holidays, right? We always move
It's
it.
the 20th, December 20th.
Okay, that's our next scheduled meeting. Is that too late?
Yes.
Or
For this,
would-
for this proposal is because they're doing December 5th to December 6th,
well, unless we ask for an
unless we
extension
ask for an extension.
of the comment period, which is it's a 2-week extension of the comment period. You think that would be a reasonable extension to have?
And plus, we haven't even had comment or actually the benefits of DEP's responses, you know, and all that. And again, I
So
certainly agree with you, Chris, you know, as far as, you know, some of the details that, again, I really appreciate just reading over the Gardella letter, but then that was done from my standpoint, that was done from a businessman's standpoint of knowing exactly how a building should be constructed, because that's exactly what they do. I'm sorry, Alan. Yes. Alan.
No, but all they're asking is that there not be things in the zoning requirements that prevent them from doing what they do. I mean, that's what they're pointing out is that they need greater ceiling heights than what's in the tables now.
That makes perfect
So
sense.
that makes perfect sense. I mean,
As a-
you don't want them to be able to not function because of the zoning rules. So
Well,
it has to be, the language needs to be changed so that you can do what you need to do.
Yeah,
Given the size of the boats that we have coming into our harbor, and we have to pull them out of the water and wash them and bottom paint them and repair them.
that's
We have to be able to do that. And if the zoning requirements say, well, you can't have a ceiling height greater than 8 feet, then it kind of messes it all up, makes it impossible.
I understand that, but we had the benefit of dealing with individual businesses in that area that say, well, what are your needs? You know, we didn't have that.
But what Alan just said,
Yeah.
we could craft
We have it now.
we could craft a recommendation that would be not just sound like it's specific to what Gardella wants to do, but it would be a recommendation that applied to all water dependent uses. That we wouldn't
Right.
want to limit, their ability to do this and to do that, but I don't think we'd want to present it as, you know, we support the Gardellas. with
No, no,
what
no, no,
they
no,
said.
no, I know that.
But
No, I
we
appreciate that,
support-
Jeff.
We support the language and the standards that are going to be able to allow continued viable water, whatever these
Yeah, but-
specific ones are. But we can't do, I don't see how we could do that tonight. in a
No, but do
reasonable
we
way.
know what standards meet viable dependent use, water dependent uses? What are those standards?
We don't know right now, John.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
We
have
can't
no
do
idea.
it Now,
No.
my,
Hi,
again,
Alan,
my
yes.
thought was be to provide these the concepts or statements that we made tonight, ask for an extension of the comment period for 2 weeks. And that would give us the benefit of having the DEP comments as well as what we learn at the public hearing.
Mhm.
And then we could provide additional, more detailed comments.
Hi, Alan, yes.
Yeah, I don't think a group this size is a very good way to go about this. You know, I think the whole commission has to weigh in on something, but I think this is a situation where
Yep.
less than a quorum of commissioners need to get together somewhere and not in a recorded meeting and just work through all this stuff. I mean, sit down together around a monitor and go up and go through the matrix and see what's crazy. I mean, I did that. I've done that several times, and there are a lot of funny things in it. There's, you know, one thing that's permitted, I think, in the marine commercial is churches. And I said, well, I thought that was kind of a peculiar use in a marine commercial district, you know. So I just think that a smaller group could craft something and bring it to the full commission for action. 'Cause otherwise, we'll all be talking at once, or somebody's going to lead us through the matrix one step at a time, and say, well, this is good, this is bad, we don't like that. That doesn't make sense for a marine commercial district.
Yeah.
It's my view.
What about the approach for the public hearing to present the comments that we've talked about tonight, or the observations that we have tonight about maintaining the marine commercial district is consistent with the harbor management plan, putting more residential development density on the waterfront in the 100-year floodplain is not. We couldn't make a favorable recommendation on that. And the other things we talked about enhancing the flood zone regulations to enhance Norwalk's standing with FEMA, and also to put the coastal boundary on the zoning map, and to make a specific reference to the municipal coastal program in the coastal management section, and to also identify the requirement for referring coastal site plan reviews to the Harbor Commission. And then after that, we say we would also like a extension of the comment period for the benefit of seeing Deep's comments, and also spending more time to hear the public comments, and to spend more time on the specific development standards that are now envisioned in both the Marine Commercial District and the Upper Harbor District.
Well, I guess we could do that. That's putting up sort of a blanket statement, but then I think Chris's point of view, and I agree, is to go down to the specifics and say what exactly is necessary
That
for
would
putting for marine commercial
Right, but
district.
that would be the second part of this, that we would have to do that after the public hearing.
Well,
Well, the public hearing, I don't think is really our forum. We have a direct line,
yes,
and then we don't need to queue up at the meeting with the general public. I think that's for the general public's time and space. And I think all of this needs to be put down and have the entire commission look at it. So, you know, by all means, write that stuff down, but send it to the commission first so we can review it.
well, yes, no, we would do that, Chris, but I'd like to benefit certainly maybe of your expertise, and maybe Chris, do you do this type of work as well? Chris White? Do you do,
What he does
this
is-
type of planning? I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, what was that? Repeat the question.
Do you do, for example, familiar with what goes into a marine commercial district to make it a marine commercial district? That you need buildings of a certain height, you need construction areas of a certain, I don't know,
No, that's outside of my
Okay.
wheelhouse.
So outside of
your
everybody's-
wheelhouse. I got you. Well, Chris, I certainly agree with you in that regard to perhaps put some specific words down on paper. But as I said, I don't know what goes into, and maybe you do, but I can certainly appreciate
Yeah, well,
a benefit or not of a benefit in a marine commercial zone. I don't know.
I also think, though, that the commission has a role in the public hearing because the commission has a regulatory standing here. If the
Hmm.
commission can't make a favorable recommendation concerning an aspect of this zoning proposal, then planning and zoning requires the supermajority vote to approve it. And that's what they had to do with the unfavorable recommendation of the P O C D. I think that needs to be part of the public record. But anyway, that's my thought. After spending 30+ years looking at the marine commercial zone here and doing it
Well,
but the loss of the municipal coastal program in the zoning regulations and also
Right.
in the P O C D, to me, is a significant matter. You might say that, oh, that's general. It's not detail about what you can build in a building, but it was a commitment that the city had to using the planning, the P O C D and the zoning regulations to advance the policies of the Coastal Management Act. Not just that they had to comply with what the procedures are, but the city would be actively trying to advance those policies. That's gone now out of the P O C D
yes.
and the zoning
All right, well,
regulations.
we can make statement about that. So we can come up with these blanket statements initially, but would the commission like to meet on an individual basis, a smaller ad hoc committee
But what
to
Chris
discuss
is-
it point by
what Chris
point?
is saying, we can't do this though now unless the commission sees all that we've written up that we
Yes.
talked about tonight and has a meeting to approve it.
But we can do that. We can write what we've done so far, discussed so far, put that down on paper, send it out to everyone, and then have an additional ad hoc meeting to discuss the nitty gritty or details of the marine commercial district that we want to evolve or develop or help develop, let me put it that way, or see develop.
When I talked last with Deep Person, they were also considering asking for an extension of the comment period. It would be interesting if they could get that extension, and that we could be part of that. But I don't know right now. Well,
Anyone have any thoughts on that? What would like to do?
I have a
Smaller group
question.
Makes sense.
What is the goal of, what's your vision of how what we'll be asking for in terms of detail in the Marine Commercial District?
That's,
Is it the role of the Harbor Commission to get into the details of the particular types of cladding and the ceiling height? Is that our hope that the Harbor Commission is going to propose new guidelines for that?
never been that way. As a commission, we've never approached it in that manner, Laura, even in an application. We've never designed.
I don't think it should be, John. I'm just
Well,
asking.
if
I
you're-
think that's beyond our.
Well, I think it's our role if what we're reviewing, the new zoning regulations adversely affects marine commercial businesses, the way marine commercial work is done in this town, in these districts, then it is our purview to comment on that.
I think there may be my recommendation would be to make a more blanket statement about that, Chris. To say we support viable marine, in a marine commercial district, we support building regulations and heights and all that support viable businesses. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty new still. I don't know that it's our role to be specific about the specs involved. I do think it's our role to be specific about uses in CD4W and in the Marine Commercial District. I think that's something that we can, take a look at what usages there are for each of those and be specific about, the impact of the uses on the harbor. I just don't know if we're the experts to get into the details. That's all.
Well, the devil's in the details sometimes. That's gonna be, it might be a very slippery slope for we're concerned.
I think there's a compromise to what Laurie said. I think part of it is the things that jump off the page at you and say, well, that's not going to work from a marine commercial district. The things that are more general, like always building dimensions have to be suitable for doing what the business does, and it's not like a dry cleaning shop. It's not like not like an auto body shop. no, it's a whole different thing that we want to have some kind of a statement to that effect. I think that just says that the, where things get specific about ceiling heights, that's got to be a little bit flexible for a marine commercial zone.
I agree with that, Alan, and again, how we,
I'm not saying we come back and say that the number should be 25 instead of 15, but I think we can make us, and this, we don't have to word craft it at this time, but we can make a statement that says that the proposed, height and material things are, are not compatible with all the uses that the matrix requires, because the matrix is just general. This is, when you get to the zoning, it's the details. And I'm not saying I'm an expert either, because I didn't really get into that. My head starts to spin about what all that is, but I I take, there's stuff that affects the Gardellas and other marine uses and whatever might end up being built down at Manresa. If we want to encourage a true marine use down there, we have to be able to make sure that a true marine use can be built under our zoning, and that our zoning hasn't squeezed everything into, a residential commercial mold.
well, to Laurie's
Well,
point,
that's-
we can cast some certainly general statements to perhaps address, support recommended design and features that would support viable marine.
Well, I'll look at it from that angle, and if we're gonna have another meeting about this and a full commission vote, I'll have some proposed language.
Well, in the meantime, we could get, like I said, what Jeff had written up or has.
I think this is a good discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
it's taking it to a different level.
Well, no, that's right.
But the city paid a lot of money for a consultant to do the waterfront industrial study and then to develop these zoning regulations. Did they, for the marine commercial district, did they talk to property owners? Do you think in the course of developing the standards or any new standards? And I don't.
But the industrial waterfront study is not the same people that rewrote the zoning.
But the waterfront zoning was supposed to follow from the recommendations of the waterfront study. With all the appendices and the test cases and all the other stuff that they had in the back, having to do with the location of development on the property and a bunch of other things.
Well, it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like they talked to the Gardellas, does it?
No, apparently not.
So we have to figure out how to incorporate this into recommendations that make sense and that don't, that the commission isn't doing something that's beyond their.
Well, we can't micromanage.
You can't micromanage it.
Well, I say we can, if we have a legitimate thing, I can think we can go as micro as we want. We are review, we don't have to say at 35,000 feet.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I do, but again, how detailed we want to get, is right now beyond me.
Sure. Well, I
I
think,
think Chris has said it's as detailed as it needs to be, to make the
Right.
point. So we don't preclude any kind of business.
Well, we can certainly try our hand at getting some words down on
We have
paper.
we have to figure out how to do it, John.
Yeah, and I mean, we can do something. We have to get words down on paper as a start, and then we just add to that as we go along. I have no problem of building from there.
But the responsibility for writing the zoning standards is with planning and zoning.
Yeah,
We can comment on that and make recommendations. But that's that language is used in the referral language in the
Mm.
state statute. Commissions, the commission's recommendations don't supersede or what, the authority of the commission with the principal authority, something like that. But we can give it some more thought. It's a good discussion. I disagree
Yeah.
with some of the stuff, but it's
Yeah.
a good discussion.
I mean, can
I
the
think it's
first
important.
discussion point that we make in this response is that we clarify what our, quote unquote angle is to increase marine use, is to increase the opportunities for more, in marine related, businesses, usage in this area, and we don't want to have that limited by unknown factors that we have at this point. And I think the unknown factors are, the example I keep using is all of a sudden there's a kelp farm that's, a highly profitable business. And now these guys who have land in these areas, because of the way it was zoned a month ago, can't actually add onto their building to do a processing facility for, an industry that we don't know even exists yet. Maybe scallops come back, maybe, whatever the case might be. You want to be able to have a mix of some retail to facilitate this, businesses that are going to do well in this area and thrive amongst the residential existing spaces, and mix that in with having more use for the harbor. That's the goal of this whole thing. So I fully understand where Chris is coming from, that if we have the opportunity, let's get as detailed as can be so that it doesn't get out of hand 5, 10, 20 years from now. But at the same point, I don't know what that level of detail is to be able to make that statement. But I want to make sure that we're protecting the oyster guys, the potential shell fishermen that are, coming in 20 years, that we're not going to box them out by all of a sudden having condos everywhere and not have a marine use area to have marine use in.
No, I agree with that, Chris.
That's what Matt said is very interesting. And it brings up the other issue that's been ongoing since the Coastal Management Act, that the redevelopment of these properties on the waterfront needs to have a water dependent component. But the water dependent component that I think is envisioned by a lot of what the city is proposing is not the marine commercial use, it's public access. So in other words, a principal site development that's not water dependent can become water dependent if it provides public access. But our policy has always been that we did not want, to be counted, a redevelopment that's not water dependent to be counted as water dependent if it only provides public access. We want to encourage the actual truly water dependent use. But that's not for our experience what the city has envisioned, certainly along the upper harbor, and we were specifically told that. That's a whole other aspect of it. Well, anyway.
All right. So how would everyone want to proceed? Do you want us to get some words down on paper, what we had discussed with regard to the good points, the bad points, what we discussed tonight, the blanket statements that come in with regard to making sure that they cite the Coastal Management Program and the Coastal Management Act, Harbor Management Plan that we have, and details with regard to what stands for actually the development of resiliency that is not to increase the population density in the floodplain area, and then to certainly provide accolades to the maintenance of the marine commercial district in that Water Street area.
So are we going to try to have
You're going to have to, Jeff.
before next week?
I think we have to have a statement of some sort
Statement
by
before,
next week.
but another special meeting before the 5th? The 5th is Tuesday.
5th is Tuesday, and that would leave, well,
Then why do we need to rush comments in if we're gonna have our comments? We're asking for a 2-week extension.
Suppose they don't give us the.
Well, that's the thing. We need the extension.
Need the extension.
right.
Maybe if.
And we need to
Deep
see
is-
what Deep has to say.
Yes, that's right.
So maybe that's something that the commission could agree to tonight, is to request that extension for the reason that we've talked about tonight.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because there's
I agree with that.
Absolutely agree with that.
a quorum at present that could vote on that for the requesting a reasonable extension for the reasons we've talked about tonight.
Right.
That would be sent to
Planning and zoning.
planning and zoning. Hopefully with the backing of Deep.
Yeah, I kept looking at my email while we're talking, thinking that Deep might, because I had asked the Deep person
To
told her
call.
that we're talking about this tonight, but
You-
she hasn't gotten back.
Nothing back, yeah, thought maybe she'd
That's
chime in.
Oh, wait a minute. No, that's something different.
No.
Well,
All right,
So we need a motion to ask for the extension then. Is that,
yeah,
Yeah, I make that motion to ask for an extension.
I'll second that.
okay, great. All right, so we'll get that letter out to Mr. Cluffin, and that's not out to Mr. Cluffin, yeah. And
that's a very good discussion.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll start working on basically some of the comments that we already had talked about this evening. Start getting some construct down, words that we could actually, material that we can deal with and build upon. In the meantime, I certainly have no problem if anyone wants to meet, like Chris, you want to meet on a sort of a roundtable discussion and
Sure, yeah.
put the map on the put the map on the table and say, look, you know, here's a marine commercial. This is what we would like to see in that particular area. If it's dealing with ONG area, we're dealing with around certainly around where Bloom's Oyster, you know, down in the off of Second Street there. Redevelopment in that area. Like I said, I'm all for,
That needs to be noticed, John.
yeah. What?
A meeting, even if it's not a quorum. it
Oh,
needs
yes,
to be
I know.
noticed.
Well,
There's nothing to say we can't have a subcommittee to put lists together and share it with the rest of the commission and then
that's what I'm saying.
have a meeting to vote.
You need to have public that make a public comment about that we're having this particular type of meeting. I don't know. What's the
That my
Right.
understanding is it's a meeting doing the public business, so even if.
well, we're doing the commission's business,
Even
not,
if-
you know, and we're not hiding anything. We're just gonna come back to the commission.
You have to, you
That's-
you can't have a meeting of 9 commissioners and expect to get a whole lot done. I'll tell you that. I mean, I haven't been here that long, but I know that. I think what we have to do is
Just saying, I don't have a little ad hoc committee, you know, a group of
Yeah.
four of us.
Just get into the nitty gritty, as we've
Right.
said, and come back to the commission as a whole and say, this is what we recommend.
Right. Do we have to publicize that?
Yes, yeah,
That's the question. Do we have to publicize
My
that?
sense is
I'll
that
find out.
you do.
All right.
Yeah, I just want to,
Well,
I just want to check it. So I made the motion, Chris seconded it, Chris McDonald seconded it. Did we take a vote?
Oh, we didn't take a
Chair
vote.
needs to call a vote.
All right,
We need-
all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any abstention? Any no's? All right, so moved. All right, we'll do that. We'll
Very
get that
good
out.
meeting.
Yeah. All right, wow.
And in answer to the question, Amelia has told us once, Alan and Jeff, I can't remember what the number is, but I think if you convene more than 3 commissioners, it has to be put on public notice. Was that it? Maybe
Yep,
4.
Lori, you're correct. As soon as there's a quorum, it needs to be properly noticed and recorded.
Right.
Quorum is 5, so,
Quorum-
you know, we
Quorum
can
is
take 3 or 4 or 5.
I believe that's contrary to freedom of information, but it's not up to me to.
I don't know.
No.
That I have no idea.
Just had a long dis-
I'm more than willing to have anybody wants to come along, if they want to tag along and put their pens to paper, I'm gladly accept that. You know, public,
Could we have a meeting in the city hall, in the conference room?
Yeah, if you guys have a time and I guess the number of people you're expecting, just let me know and I can see if the planning and zoning conference room is available.
oh, good. All right. Well, anybody had any suggestion of what time? Day of the week? You want to, maybe this little ad hoc committee would meet?
I can't do it next Monday, the 4th.
Oh, boy.
Wednesdays are best for me. I got lots of kid duty.
Well,
Wednesday is the public hearing. So
Right.
let's see if we can get the extension.
Wednesday's also the Iota Club Christmas party. Shellfish Commission party. Wow.
Oh, that's
Let's get the letter for the extension in.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that
Today's
for the next
Monday.
couple of days.
Get that in the next day or so.
Yeah.
See what we can do and then get back.
All right,
This Friday.
we'll get that out, send that out, and I'll send everyone a copy on that. And then maybe we can figure out what day we can have a small group and sit down and sort of piecemeal this thing together with some of the comments. But again, I think, Lori, I certainly agree with you about maybe coming up with some blanket statements with regard to what we would like to see in waterfront development would entail. But I don't know how much in detail we have to be. I mean, certainly, Chris, and if you think you had some ideas about that, certainly welcome that along as well.
Well, it's sure. And we don't have to come up with what it should be. With the zoning, it's telling you what it can't be. So we have to poke some holes in their provisions for saying what things can't be.
I see. Yes, okay. I got you. Yes. Then that would entail a priori knowledge of what a business would require. You see, that's where I'm sort of caught up in a quagmire.
Well,
That's what we gotta figure out.
Yeah, okay. All right, no, I agree. All right. Like I said, yeah, certainly a good discussion. Some of the things I really didn't care, All right,
I noticed we have somebody on the call from Norwalk Cove Marina. I suspect it's Michael Garvey. Mike, if you'd like to say anything, raise your hand and Amelia will can add you to the meeting. I see your hand up.
You should be able to speak now if you unmute yourself.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
yes,
Yes, we can.
Mike,
thank-
you're Mike Garvey, correct?
Yes, hi, it's Mike Garvey. I'm from Norwalk Cove and Rex Marine. I've been there for about a year and a half or so. Just wanted to say I appreciate the spirited discussion on the letter that I sent around earlier to Alan. I think it's a really good discussion. I think there's definitely benefits to have from it down the road as you guys kind of sort through the input from the Harbor Commission into zoning. And that's kind of so I didn't have any input really into that went into it from the attorney's office that helped us put it together. We told them some of our needs and wants from what you probably gathered with our current operations and what may be useful to us down the road, building a bigger storage building and more outdoor dining and stuff like that. But I think you kind of said it right there, Chris, at the end. It's not what we're trying to do, it's what we're allowed to do and what planning and zoning is giving us the space to make up and down the harbor. So I think that was some really good input. And if you guys had any other questions about that letter, or if you wanted to even speak to Liz Suchy, kind of what they've learned from reading through the guidelines. I know they spent a lot of time and effort with an architect and their law office to put that together for us. Maybe they have some other pieces of input too, if you're interested.
That interesting you should say that they had the benefits of an architect, certainly, because that's certainly what I would have thought that the city would have had when they did the original planning of what went into a good waterfront facility and the water dependent use, and then come up with a recommendation. That's what I thought that planning would be all about. But I'm glad that you certainly had the benefit of perhaps a waterfront architect, let's say, of what is needed for your particular business. And I think that's what I think what you're able to put together this particular letter with such detail as far as what you would like to see based on your current business, which we don't have obviously the actual working knowledge of ourselves, but.
If you remember, some years ago, we met with people from the redevelopment agency. And we were talking about the Upper Harbor. And the vision that was presented to us was not a vision of marine commercial uses. It was a vision they called public esplanades and
Espionage, right?
beer gardens and residences.
Right.
So I think that's not the vision that we don't want to leave out the truly marine commercial and the truly water dependent uses to be replaced by non-water dependent uses with just public access.
Mhm.
So I think that's a basic principle of the harbor management plan.
Mhm.
And how do we guide this zoning so that we don't lose out on the Cove Marina uses and the Rex Marine uses and the other.
Right.
Well, anyway, remember when we met with them, John, That was the vision.
Yeah.
Public esplanades and beer gardens
Esplanade.
along the upper harbor.
That's when we sort of shook our
Well,
head. Yeah.
Another topic. Thank you.
All right. All right, well, so far we've got I guess a semi-working plan.
Yep.
The question is when do we meet again?
Well, do we meet again at the end of this week? Or if we get if we know that there's gonna be an extension, we could,
End of this week is December 1st.
Yeah. well, let's see what happens tomorrow with the request for the extension.
Well, that's gonna hinge on that too.
It's the first step,
All right,
is to
right.
work on the extension.
all right,
And there was a vote for the extension.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, I don't know how early, how soon we'll get a response to this. That's a question. Wow. It's amazing how compact everything is right here. So thank God, things have to be done so far. Well,
Can't say the Harbor Commission isn't taking this seriously and
no, never
pursuing
said,
its,
never did.
pursuing its mission.
All right, and is there any further comments you'd like to make or things that plan for? We'll get the letter out within the next day or so.
Get it out tomorrow.
Yeah. And then work on the next meeting for us. Now, the meeting with Alan, you suggest the meeting be with just a sort of a small ad hoc committee or full commission?
Well, I think if you want to have a session with less than 5 people, less than 5 commissioners to, fine tune things and just sit around the table or sit on the phone and just try to have a process of going through the things that are of concern to the maritime aspects of this zoning thing. I think they should just go ahead and do that as soon as possible, just to have like a brainstorming session. Just said these are the things that jump off the page as being not congruous with a marine commercial district. They're going to be things may be limiting. It may be a semi-broad statement, and it may be a detailed item.
Yeah, well, right now, I don't know.
And then that would have to come back to the commission for a vote.
Right. But I don't know how to go about, this being how far in the specifics we have to get with regard to, and that's where I'm at a loss.
We have to figure it out.
Well, I think it has to be. It's whatever needs to be said is what it is. Anything that needs to get out on the table needs to get on the table. And quite often that gets lost in a broad conceptual discussion. So there are a few items that I saw in the use table that made no sense to me.
All right.
Like the restaurants and bars not being there, things like that are just need to be listed because with a 1 or 2 sentence statement of why that is.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right, fair enough. All right, so we'll get the letter out and then we'll sit back and plan the next ad hoc meeting. I just hope we hear fairly soon as far as the extension is concerned, because that's certainly going to depend on how much time we have to work, which is in a very short period.
At least we have deep nosing around doing the same thing, which would be helpful if we both had the same request.
That's what I'm depending on, Alan, because I know Marcy, who's been reviewing this application, would like much more time to review. All righty. Should we call an adjournment?
We have another
one more agenda
item on
item.
the agenda.
Okay, what was that? I'm sorry, who was that?
That was Amelia. I suggest that we table that tonight because I think we haven't been thinking about that.
What's that, Alan? You talk about the Veterans Park?
Voting
No,
on
no.
whether to hold separate, application review committee meeting or combine it with keep it combined with the Harbor Management Commission meeting.
Oh, okay, for now?
We do have to
No, I
submit
mean, we have
the
any, do we have
calendar.
any,
We have to submit the
Pardon me?
2024 calendar to the mayor's office by December 14th, and then you don't have another meeting scheduled until December 20th. So I mean, I think it should be voted on tonight if possible, because we don't know if you will have another meeting before the 14th when the calendar's due. Unless you schedule a special meeting just for this one item.
no, we're not gonna do that. So the question is whether we have the application review committee, meet, separately as we used to, before the commission meeting starts. And then have the commission meeting with the entire commission, like at 7 o'clock. If we set a time like that, which is like, I think the schedule needs, that we have application review at 6, the only people that are required to be there are anyone who's interested of the commissioners, but the application review committee should have to be there. And then at 7 o'clock, we would go into our regular meeting, and the results of the application review committee would be presented to the entire commission to vote on with the minimum of not a whole new discussion, just an introduction of why the committee is making the recommendation that it's making, and then the commission would vote on yay or nay on each of the items.
Well, I have no problem going back to the previous plan. I mean, we started that mainly, I guess, when, with John Ramon wanted everything, with COVID, and wanted everything all together. Since we started at 6, everyone show up at 6, and everyone sometimes would open up their website at 6 o'clock and attend the meeting. But at the time, it was only just supposedly it was the application review committee meeting that was supposed to vote. But then it got to the point where John decided that everyone should be voting if we're going to be talking about it at the same time to sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So I like I said, I have no problem with meeting beforehand in a smaller session with the ARC review, and then bringing forward any recommendation to the full commission later on.
The downside.
I'll say I think the new way works better. Part of it is having it electronic, because we would have to end our application review meeting by 7. And before it was just who was ever in the room. If one ended early, if one ended late, it didn't matter. We took a 5-minute break and then rolled into the next meeting. This makes it more rigid because each one has to be advertised and each one has to be a separate Zoom call. And I'm on both committees, so I think it's double work. It's double work for the committee, for the application review committee to have to review it and discuss it and then present it again to the full committee. It's less work for those people because then they can skip the first hour. But so it's reviewed once, it's discussed once, it's voted on once, and we're done. And everybody participates. If folks think that it's a waste of their time to sit through the details of the application review, then that's a valid perception. But being on both committees, it's just double the work as far as I'm concerned.
I mean,
You make a good point there, Chris. And if you don't want to, if you're not interested, or if you just don't comment, you could be there. So I'm in agreement with you, Chris, that we have them combined. You made a valid point that you have to do this twice then. Not to mention that if it's 2 separate Zoom calls, then again, that has to be scheduled. And so I'm fine if, I can make a motion that we keep them combined.
Yeah, no, I certainly have no problem with that either. I mean, with either method that we had, we go way back and doing it both ways. I said, I certainly have no etched in stone way of handling that. And as I said, I'm flexible with basically both ways, but I certainly agree with Chris's comments. as
I
far as-
agree with Chris as well. I think it works better with everybody there and if you have to be there, but you can be doing something else if you're really not interested in all the details. So I would support saying, let's have it all one meeting.
Well, I'll second
Okay.
Chief's motion then.
All right. All
Can I
right.
just make a comment? Can I make a comment?
Mhm.
Sorry. I'm on a meeting. Sorry, my husband thought I was into him. I agree that operationally it totally makes sense. I'm just going to say, as a relatively new commissioner, to me, the Harbor Commission is the application review committee. So when I think about what the Harbor Commission does, it does application review. That's 95% of our meeting. So I wish there was more time and energy spent on plans and recommendations, on public access, on all the other objectives of the harbor management plan. I feel like right now we do application review. So I'm just saying that's my perception of our meetings. Meaning, we've got 5 minutes on, not even 5, 3 minutes on finance, 3 minutes on plans and recommendations, couple minutes on harbor master. But I just I'm concerned that we don't spend more time on the responsibilities of the Harbor Management Commission. That's my 2 cents. I don't disagree that it should be together operationally.
All right. So Chris, you want to make a motion to that and we'll go ahead with our vote?
Chris seconded it. I
Jeff made a motion, I seconded it, so.
Chris second. All right, any further discussion on the matter? All right, all those in favor of the motion of holding it as one single meeting? All right, 1, 2. I can't see all the hands, but any verbally? Okay, thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Any abstentions? Any no's? Okay, so moved. We have a
combined meeting. Okay, Amelia, you can go ahead and post it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
all right.
I'll
And
second that.
that, okay. All those in favor? Well,
Aye.
evening. All right, everyone.
Aye.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, John.
Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
night, everyone.
Good night now.
Good night.
Have a good night.